Howdy y'all, welcome to Texas. We're outside of Austin at the Circuit of the Americas, ready for qualifying to commence for round 6 of the FIA World Endurance Championship. A beautiful sunny autumn afternoon, temperatures nudging up into the 30s, over 90 degrees Fahrenheit, as the cars get ready to head out on this fabulous undulating circuit. GT qualifying up first, followed by the prototypes. I'm Martin Haven, alongside me, Le Mans winner and world champion Alan McNish. And Alan, a track on which you took your final ever sports car race win. It's a new track, but it's an old track. It's got all the spirit of a track that's been around for 50 years.
Yeah, it's a stunning circuit. It's got all the feelings, as you say, the characteristics, elevation change, cambers, difficult corners, tightening up sections, fast sections. You know, it's a meaty sort of circuit. It's a track that when you deliver a lap, you've had to work for it. You've had to earn the respect of the circuit in a way. But from a driver's point of view, it's fantastic. From an engineer's point of view, excellent. But also from the fans.
Well, we're into the 6th round of the championship, mid-September here in Austin, Texas, so it's still beautiful and warm. We head after this in a month's time to Fuji, to the Fuji Motor Speedway in Japan, then to Shanghai in China before the season finale in Bahrain, and that will probably by that stage already have seen our world champions crowned in most categories, but probably not all. 32 degrees currently, 42 degrees of track temperature, so that's around 109, 110 Fahrenheit perhaps. Whatever it is, the word for the weekend is toasty. You can't fry an egg on that temperature. We've tried, but it's getting very close indeed. If you put a bit of steel out rather than trying to fry it on the track, you might well do that. Last year's winners, Porsche winning in LMP1, Signatech, who've been very quick in practice, winning in LMP2, and they will be among the front runners as well. But we'll get to the prototype qualifying shortly. First of all, the GTEs go out, the AM and Pro classes sharing the track together. Marco Sorensen strapping it to go in first in the Dane train. That's the 95 Aston Martin. Darren Turner will go out in the 97 car. In fact, according to my timing screen, it's Nicky Thiem going out first in 95. However, we'll wait and see whether that translates itself into reality. A Dempsey Proton in the AM class. Christian Ried and Matteo Cairoli likely to do the qualifying. Matteo Cairoli, the Porsche Junior driver. Well, the cars will go out in a couple of moments. Let's hear from 67 Ford.
Ready to check, Andy?
Copy, copy.
Brake balance 49, did you say?
Yes, mate, 49.
Okay, I mean, that's where we ended the session. New tyres, I'd probably suggest 49.5 to 50.
Wilkes, can you just tell me if Olivier on his fastest lap was second gear for the last corner or first gear for the last corner?
Stand by.
Ooh. Well, we're going to have to wait to find the answer to that. We talked a little bit in free practice, Alan, about teams not exactly plagiarising, but learning from the car in the other side of the garage. If you're a single car team, obviously you don't get that opportunity. But there, Andy wanting to know what Olivier Plal used in the final corner. Was it second? Was it first? Did he get more wheel spin, less wheel spin, better run out? Presumably to start the lap as importantly as to finish it.
Yeah, but also the other thing was that they were very clear that 66 actually went for a flat-out lap, but on the other side, here's 67.
Yeah, Olivier and Stefan were second for the last corner, Andy.
Yeah, a bit of clarity there. Second for the last corner. It is a slow corner, the final corner leading on to the start and finish, but you need to have a little bit of momentum. And if you go down to first gear, it's maybe appropriate for the speeds, but it actually holds the car up that little bit too much on the entry to the apex. And so you can, basically, you lose on the entry and maybe gain a bit in the exit, but second gear for a qualifying lap should be right. But just coming back to it, Olivier Pla in the 66 car, they actually went for a qualifying simulation in free practice this morning, but the 67 car, the championship leader with Andy Prio and Harry Tinknell, they focused more on race runs, and I think their tyres were basically the first set of tyres that they used. We heard the radios this morning saying that they had done a stint and a half on the fronts, and so it looked like...
Good afternoon in the pit lane. My grumpy voice is back. I know Lisa's voice is much more pleasant, but this is how it works. We are under 5 minutes to go green at pit exit. No need referring that it's not raining. It is rather wet out, rather hot out there, so please be careful. Session will start on time, and we intend to open pit exit exactly on time. Again, track limits, as mentioned in the briefing, they are to be observed during the whole session. Procedure will be the same as in the past qualifying sessions from this year. I do request you all to turn on the RCNS systems, and I will come back to the frequency before the session starts.
That's the voice of race director Eduardo Freitas, basically repeating the driver's briefing verbatim at the beginning of the qualifying session.
Well, the key point there was, and I spoke to Eduardo just before coming into the commentary box, was he said track limits. He said it's an old circuit in character, a new circuit in layout. That means that it's got a lot of runoff, tarmac runoff areas, which is very important. However, it means that the drivers have taken liberties over the years. I know I did. And you sort of take these liberties to push it to the limit. However, there's 3 key points where they're being very, very careful. That's turn 9, which is just as you exit the end of the first sector. And then you've got turn 12 at the end of the back straight, and then the second last corner, turn 19. And turn 19 was where most people were getting pinged for track limits. Now, in qualifying, if you go over with all 4 wheels over the line, your lap time is immediately taken away. If we rewind 12 months ago, that happened to quite a lot of cars. So I'd expect to see a few drivers having to redo their laps just to ensure that they get one on the board.
And that's why accuracy is absolutely vital. You take a little bit of a liberty, but if you take too much, it's the same thing in every sport. Pinch an inch too much and you'll end up getting on the wrong side of the line.
Yeah, you know, you can always argue about it. If it's a wall and a street circuit, then you pinch an inch and it's your right front wheel that's taken off the car.
Yep.
And that's you out of it. But in these modern circuits, they're much wider and they kind of allow a little bit of forgiveness. However, you can't have that where it's a benefit to the lap time. And as you see, the 67 car, that's a championship leader there coming out. They want to keep the tyres in the ovens to be at the appropriate temperature, but critically as well, pressure, because that first lap in qualifying on that new tyre is going to be the lap where if you maximise it, you will be able to deliver the best lap time. If you have to do a second one, it's a compromise. You may improve on the first sector, but you're going to lose towards the end of the lap on the third sector.
It's exactly like a second serve in tennis. You know you've muffed the first one, you've got to get the second one, which makes it weaker, and that is exactly the same deal here. And when we'll see qualifying, possibly pole position decided by hundreds rather than tenths, possibly by thousands rather than hundreds in any of our classes, then you really need to be on it. And in the GT Pro class, like the number 97 Aston Martin here, and especially in something as tight as the LMP2 category, you've really got to be completely accurate. If you overstep the mark, you will be in trouble. Just saw Sam Bird helmeting up to get into his Ferrari. Number 71 car that he shares with Davide Rigon. Rigon is in the car at the moment. Now, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, it doesn't seem like 2 whole weeks since we were in Mexico, rather than Texas, we saw everybody kind of hanging back and waiting almost till the end of the session before they ventured out on track. I'm not sure that there's necessarily any mileage in that here. What you want, and what the 95 Aston Martin is about to get, is a clear track in front of it. The problem then is you come round at the end of your warm-up lap and everybody's meandering out of the pits to start their warm-up lap. So there's no perfect way of doing it.
Yeah, there's one difference from Mexico to here, though, is that Mexico can get quite windy. It's windy here, and, you know, we've had quite a few complaints about it. However, in Mexico, it blows a lot of dust onto the circuit. You don't want to be basically the street sweeper for everybody else, whereas here we don't have quite that same dust effect that you have normally in Mexico City.
The other problem with Mexico was that everybody was worried about the rain arriving. Here's Eduardo.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pit exit is green for the qualifying session of Le Mans GT cars.
So out goes the first of our GTE AM cars, and Pedro Lamy, unsurprisingly, is the man who goes out first in this. He had to have a second stab in Mexico. They thought they could get a better run out of the car, so he went out, handed over his teammate to do their run, and then he went out again right at the very end. My memory's not good enough to remind me whether they improved on that or not. Had a little bit of a chat with him and Matthias Lauda, and Paul Dall'Anna at lunchtime, and in common with just about everybody else, it's going to be single stinting unless something very odd happens with the weather tomorrow. And Alan, for the prototype drivers, where you can't change tyres every time you refuel, you are likely going to have to change the driver. So somebody's going to get in after 2 stints not being in the car, and they're going to be on tyres that somebody else has ragged to within an inch of their life. That's going to be an interesting outlap, and first sort of getting to grips with the car, because it'll be very different from the last time you were sat in it.
Yeah, no, that's definitely one of the factors. It's a tricky factor now. It's one they have to deal with. But now it's a very different thing they have to deal with. It's a brand new tyre grip. And as we said, the Ford that we're watching as he goes up to turn 1 there, they didn't do a qualifying sim. Not everybody did a qualifying sim this morning, so therefore it's a bit of a voyage of discovery. Reason being is that they want to maintain the correct tyre allocation for the race, even though it's a reset now and they've got a limited number from now to the end of the 6-hour race tomorrow. But it's important to actually have the tyre you need round here. And with the GT cars, is it the medium or is it the hard? Nobody's got a soft tyre here. Is it medium or hard? Because it's quite a tough circuit on tyres. It's long right-hander here, the triple right-hander, one that puts a lot of load into the front if it's a front engine car like this, or into the rear if it's, say, for example, LMP2.
Fabulous bellow from the Aston Martin V8 Vantage. Pedro Lamy hits the line running, starts his flying lap. Just to remind everybody, qualifying is not a single driver's best lap. It's not the fastest lap set by everybody who has a run in the car. It is combined time created by the fastest lap set by each of 2 drivers. Now, some cars are 2-driver cars, some are 3-driver lineups. Not all 3 will go, only 2 drivers get to set a time.
Yeah, but at the same time, you can, for the second driver that jumps in, put a new set of tyres if you wish, so he's got equal performance. However, that takes away from that new tyre in the race. So therefore, you can then look at the compromise of running your second driver on the first set of tyres used. So therefore, lap times can be quite different. But as you can see, Pedro Lamy there climbing over the curbs, monstering the curbs as he came through turns 7, 8 and 9, down to the hairpin now. Big, deep braking into the hairpin. Quite bumpy there, the rear of the car becoming a little bit unstable. And then getting onto the power. A clean exit's very important for Lamy. And so far, right now, he's just a touch slower than what his fastest was this morning in his quali sim.
Well, there you can see one of the 2 Fords fastest at the moment in the first sector, though, is Porsche's Richard Lietz in the 91 car. Pedro Lamy at 48.1 second sector. Now, don't forget this 98 Aston, it's the first car out on track on a full flying lap. Everybody else is either building up to speed or starting behind him, because he was the first car out of the pit lane. So he's just got to hope that this Ferrari picks up its skirts and gets on with it, rather than holding him up. And of course, the Ferrari is building up to speed, building up temperature and pressure in the tyres to start the lap, so they want to do that as well.
It looks like it's the first sector that people are struggling with, because Olivier Pla, who's off screen at the moment, is quick in the middle sector but struggling on the first one. This is going to be a couple of tenths slower than he did this morning, principally because of that first sector, because Lamy's equalled his middle sector as now he accelerates out over the line.
Across the line he comes, first man to set a time. Pedro Lamy with a 2-minute 4.949. Behind him, building up to speed, fast sector from 95 Aston and Marco Sorensen in sector 2. Olivier Pla goes top of the times. Now, Pla was fastest of all the GT cars in this morning's free practice 3 in the 66 Ford, and he's repeated that. Oh, and look at this, trouble for the 95 Aston. Stuck behind the Clearwater Racing Ferrari there, and that will have blunted that lap a little bit.
And the next lap, because he didn't get a clean run out, so it's not as if he can do another lap, or he can, but ultimately his acceleration out of the final corners compromised as well, so it's both laps. Well, the Sorensen's now gone quickest in that Aston, though.
Nevertheless, yeah, he did go top, so Darren Turner pointing at the timing screens there. Richard Lietz second, and now down to third now, because his teammate Christensen in the 92 car that had an engine change yesterday has just gone to the top of the timing sheet. So Porsche were keeping their powder dry in free practice, Al.
Yeah, well, yes, that was the thing about this morning. We didn't necessarily see everything that everybody had. They didn't throw a set of tyres at it and wind it up, and now we're actually seeing the true sort of picture. Olivier Pla, who was quickest this morning, his lap time is Andy Prio's now going quickest of all. I was going to say Pla, it actually was 1 second slower than his time of this morning, and Prio in the sister Ford, the 67 Championship leading car, that's now at top of the timesheet, 6/10 quicker than the Porsche.
This doesn't have the look of an in-lap from the 77 Proton Dempsey Proton Porsche of Matteo Cairoli, the Porsche Junior driver, really leaning on the car. He's already set a time that's good for second in class. Now, has he backed out of it now, just as I was starting to get excited about him setting another quick lap? The problem with a long back straight, it is a long back straight. It sort of makes the car look slower than they are. The body language still makes it look like he's pushing on. This is Michael Wainwright in the Gulf Racing Porsche. And Wainwright currently 4th in the AM class. Pedro Lamy was fastest, or the 98 Aston was fastest for much of the qualifying session in the AM class in Mexico until the Ferrari went fastest of all. Lamy steps out and in will get Paul Della Lana. Until the Porsche went fastest, so it's the 54 Ferrari here that we're looking at here. Miguel Molina, who is currently second. He's just taken that position away from Matteo Cairoli in the 77 Porsche. And it was the Porsche that started on pole 2 weeks ago. Very underwhelming lap from one car in the Pro class, 51 Ferrari, Alessandro Pierre Guidi, who shares with James Collado. They had a nightmare weekend in Mexico with a sick engine that was changed after qualifying, and then turned out to be a sick engine in the race that retired them out of the race. And at the moment, the only lap set by Alessandro Pierre Guidi is a 2:28.
Yeah, but he's now on a lap. I think he's clearly not had a clean run, that first one, being 25 seconds off the pace, but now Pierre Guidi is actually on a lap in the 51 Ferrari. You can see the oversteer there as it came through that triple right-hander, and that's where it is, that rear tyre just sitting into it. This is second place overall with Molina in the car as he comes down braking hard into the final corner.
Yeah, so he's giving it another lap. I thought maybe he'd be coming into the pits then. We've seen a few in, but he is going to complete another lap. There's the car that's second in the Pro class, Davide Rigon. I think will come in now to hand over to Sam Bird.
Yeah, but Rigon's actually on a lap there.
Better lap, isn't he, actually?
So going a little bit quicker as he now comes through the triple right-hander.
So Matteo Cairoli has completed the lap and remains in third in the 77 Porsche. Miguel Molina remains second in the 54 Ferrari, but this car, 71, Davide Rigon on a better lap than he's had before. The target is 2:03.02, and he gets a 2:02.99 rather, so he moves to the top of the timing screens. Sam Bird will be very buoyed up with that. Now, as you said, Alan, some teams may venture out with a new tyre for their second driver as 51 goes third. That's the flying lap from Alessandro Pierre Guidi. Some may not. So Guidi having a big handful of understeer there as he turned in at the top of the hill.
Strategy that will come in from that. I think now there'll be a lot of people looking towards the next part. You've got here a massive gap between Rigon, who we saw just finishing off that pole lap, to Andy Prio, the previous pole sitter, of 200ths of a second.
Yeah.
So it's
well, massive.
What's that, about maybe 30 centimetres, less than that, 20 centimetres.
Probably at the speed they're crossing the line, yes. Under a foot, definitely. Off goes the 66 Ford of Olivier Pla. And as you say, Andy Prio's handed over the 67 car to Harry Tingle. He's on the way out. Kevin Estra on the way out in the 92 Porsche. And from the pits, Louise reporting that Fred Macovici in the 91 Porsche has gone out on the same tyres. Can hear air hammers going, and that's the 77 Dempsey Proton Racing Porsche of Matteo Cairoli, who's brought the car in. So Dempsey Proton will go with fresher tyres.
I think Louise, talking about tyres, has got some information for us on all of that sort of thing.
I'm down one end of the pit lane, obviously, so I saw the 91 91-92 did not change. The 77s just come in for the AM, and they have changed tyres. Just waiting on the 51 and the 71 Ferraris to pull up and see what they have decided to do.
That's it, it's a bit of strategy going on there. We saw Andy Prio in the pit, the previous pole sitter. It's handed over, and Larry Holt, the technical head of Multimatics, who built that Ford GT car, in quite strong discussion.
And they're also building the road cars as well. Multimatic are responsible for building the road cars up in Canada. So Harry Tincknell is on the outlap. Davide Rigon brought the Ferrari in 71 car. So the 97 Aston Martin, which is the Darren Turner Johnny Adam car, which is last of the pros. Fast lap from Nicky Team. First sector goes purple, faster than Alessandro Pierguidi had set on his last lap. Pierguidi at the time that lap was good enough to go top. So the Ferraris from AF Corsa are both in. Looking at a Clearwater racing car that is currently lying in 4th place in the AM class. Fred Makovici has now tied to the 1,000th of a second Nicky Team's first sector time. So there's a heck of a battle on there. We might be looking at 28 thousandths of a second between first and second, being quite a wide margin, having been sarcastic about it. Yeah,
as we're now watching Paul Dalla coming through towards the end of the sector, into the tricky, tightening left-hander. It's easy to lock up your left front wheel there. You've got to hit that apex. He misses it a little bit. It's better if you can get over that inside curve and get onto the power before the long, long triple right-hander. The sister car of this, the 95 with Nicky Team, though, he's on a blasting lap that looks like it's quick enough for pole position.
And in fact, I think he's the next car on track. Just got a glimpse of the other green Aston in the background of the shot there at the end of the straight. All right, so Alessandro Pierguidi handing over to James Collado. There is the 98 Aston. They've had the air conditioning system rebuilt. There's 95 across the line.
Not a good last sector, no. Dropped off in the last sector, half a second away from the Ferrari and the Ford. Massively quick in sector 1 and 2, and obviously a bit of a scruffy sector 3 somewhere that we didn't quite see.
Or is it just that they, in fact, it's a personal best sector 3 for that car, so better than it's done before, but are we suggesting, do they have a new tyre on? They must have had a new tyre.
Looks like
95 Aston Martin.
Yeah, but they've also on a different tyre, remember, because the Aston Martins run Dunlop, and most of, well, in fact, all of the others in this category, they run the Michelin tyre, so there's different characteristics, and Dunlop have got a big push where apparently they brought a new tyre here for this weekend, and it's dedicated to Aston Martin. We've got
Alessandro Pierguidi looking very animated, isn't he? Not happy with something, not pleased with that. Why are we not putting a new tyre on, maybe, he's asking.
Maybe that Andy Prio watching Harry Tincknell as he came through turn 2 and in towards the S's. And this is the 66, that's the sister car, which was Olivier Pla, as running it now, Stefan Muka, as he now comes down towards the end of the lap into the final corner, heavy braking, then accelerate across the line. They're a half a second off the pole position, though, at the moment, as he now comes to complete the lap.
Well, those
stays in 5th.
Remember at the beginning of the last lap, we said Nicky Team and Fred Makovici have both set purple first sectors that were identical. Nicky Team didn't improve for 3rd. Fred Makovici didn't improve from 7th, despite a purple first sector. So his lap dropped off even more. So that's the effect that not changing the tyres has had on the Porsches. 91 and 92 dropped down to 7th and 8th. Here's Darren Turner with the blue and yellow Aston Martin, sponsored by local petroleum firm Valero here in Texas. Bumps over the curbs, sweeping down into this never-ending right-hander. You have to basically try and take a set through these 3 right-handed turns and join them all together as one. They flow together beautifully. Dives to the inside of the Dempsey Proton car into turn 19, keeps it clean enough. There is a fixed camera there that will penalise anybody that runs out wide, same as at turn 12. As Darren Turner comes to the line, 97 goes from 6th Oh, in fact, it's Johnny Adam goes from 6th and remains in 6th place. So the final sector really died away underneath him. Now then, this is quite odd. Davide Rigon looking a little concerned as well.
Here's 51 with Collado in the car, and it looks like Ford, well, they definitely didn't change tyres. Tingle did a pretty blinded lap, actually, to still be right in the mix with that, which was a strong one. Now Collado as well, and Sam Bird, who's taking over the 71 Ferrari that's quickest overall. So it's going to be about the driver on the used tyre, what he can do, as opposed to the guy on the new tyre, the first one. The second driver, I think, is going to be the key, whether he can maximise and get that performance out of it. And this final sector is where it seems to slip away for a lot of them. Just can't get the car into it, can't get in towards the apex. Again, you see it, it's a metre away from the apex. That means you have to run out, and see on the left-hand side, you've got those rumble strips that then mean you can't run out too far. And then you get compromised into this long right as well.
And this is a really hard part of the track for the tyre, with all these long, fast, constantly loaded corners. Across the line, into the final turn, comes James Collado in 51. Sam Bird building up to speed in 71. And Collado remains where he was in 4th place. Harry Tingle in the 67 Ford in the pit lane. So too is Stefan Mucke in the 66 car. So too is Paul Dall'Alana in the 98 Aston.
And that's Sam Bird in the Ferrari, the quickest overall at the moment, as he now comes down towards the end of that second sector. He's got the Aston Martin up ahead of him, and pulls over and lets him go through. Now this is a fight for pole position. This lap is the fight for pole position as he comes in to the left-hander at the end of the straight, turn 12, and then back onto the throttle.
And they really want something out of this race. They were in front on the road in Mexico, but a penalty for a late race incident cost them victory. So they really want to strike back now and try and chase down Andy Priaulx and Harry Tingle, the championship leaders.
Yeah, but it's important for the championship because there's 1 point if you get pole position. Yep. And that championship battle is coming down to just a squeeze between 2 or 3 cars up at the front, as now Bird comes through the second last corner and manages to keep it on board. So that'll be a clean lap with no penalty from track limits as he comes now out of the final corner and accelerates towards the line.
And he's got about a quarter of a second to play with ahead of Harry Tingle. And so, in fact, their best lap, he's just set it with the fastest. He went purple in the final sector on a used tyre.
Yeah, it's a 2:03.122 was his last lap, so it's a 1/10 and a half off what his teammate did. And as you said, that purple last sector, really good last sector.
So he wasn't better than the car had been in the first 2 sectors, which would have made them purple anyway, but he found something in the final sector that's cost everybody else. That was... and again, sometimes it's how the driver drives the car, sometimes it's the way the car treats its tyre, and sometimes it's somewhere in between all of those, it's always in between all of those factors, but maybe the Ferrari is just a little bit kinder on its tyre. Clearwater Racing Ferrari here with a major cracked windscreen. That's an absolute MOT failure, and that's all a result of perhaps some of their incidents in Mexico a couple of weeks ago. At the moment, 98 Aston is fastest, ahead of the 54 Ferrari. Thomas Floor doing the second lap in that. This is Matt Griffin. Can he drag 61 into the top 2 in the AM class? It's going to be a big lap if he does, and he comes across the line to go 3rd. Excellent. So that's a big lap from Matt Griffin, brings them up from the bottom of the pile into 3rd position in the GTE AM class. So it's Aston, Ferrari, Ferrari, Porsche, Porsche, and almost all the pro cars are now parked. Sam Bird on his way back in, I think, but the 95 Aston you're looking at there, Marco Sorensen, looks like he's on another lap.
Yeah, he does. It looks like he's getting it ready. 18 seconds to go. He's going to have to honk on if he's going to try and cross before he gets to the checkered as he comes through turns 19 down to 20.
Good useless race, honk on there, absolutely apposite. Particularly with a big growly V8 like this, and he's not going to be... Oh, is he?
No.
Did he take the checkered flag? Yes, he was given the checkered flag there, so Marco Sorensen won't get another lap, but the car is 3rd fastest.
So it's Ferrari, Ford, Aston, the top three in GTE Pro, and then Aston, Ferrari, and GTE AM.
Yeah, so GTE Pro is Ferrari, Ford, Aston, nicely symmetrical, and then Porsche, also nicely symmetrical, but not as nicely advantageous for the Porsche drivers.
No, and 1.3 seconds off. I think that's the bigger thing, more than necessarily the position. As you see the celebration there from Rigon and Bird, pole position.
Yeah. That was a great lap from Sam Bird, and great end to the lap from Sam Bird, and also from Matt Griffin. He's on a better lap this time. It's green and green in sector 1 and 2, so that is better than he's done before. So Matt Griffin might. How close is he? He needs 3/10 to overhaul Thomas Floor's 54 Ferrari for second place. So the Clearwater Racing Ferrari. How close will he get? Comes across the line, bit bumpy out of the final corner, and stays in third place, but he halved the margin. There's the AF Corsa boys, very happy with pole position. Left Sam Bird in the cap, Davide Rigon. Paul Dalla, the man who is on pole position in the GTE AM class. Louise Beckett, you heard from her down in the pit lane. Let's catch up with her and our pole sitters.
Sam Bird, that was pretty impressive. Where you found that time for in that last sector, I don't know, do you?
It's a combination of great work from Brice, Davide and myself. We worked really hard over the last 24 hours to make sure the car's in the right window for not only the qualifying, but the race. I mean, he said to me, you know, we got a chance to only do it on one set of tyres, and we managed it, so really, really happy.
That was my next question, but you've answered it already, so you were on used tyres.
Yeah, I used Davide's tyres, and I mean, I knew it was going to be tough. I pulled out probably the best lap I've done all year, probably better than my the record lap in Mexico. For me, that was tougher, harder. Yeah, delighted for the team.
Great, thank you.
Only one update at the end of qualifying for the GT cars, and that is that the final lap of car 61, Matt Griffin, deleted for abuse of track limits at turn 19, so it looked as though he was close. In fact, he did drift out wide, but nothing, no terms of penalties in the GTE Pro class. So Sam Bird and Davide Rigon will start from the front of the field with Harry Tinknell and Andy Priya alongside Pedro Lamy, and in the centre, Paul Dalla did the driving. Matthias Lauda will be part of the race crew, but only 2 drivers do the qualifying runs. So that 98 Aston will start on the AM class pole ahead of the 54 Ferrari of Thomas Floor. 61, Matt Griffin got close. In the end, lost the lap that got him closer. But Sam Bird, that final sector, is it something in the Ferrari? Is it something that Birdie found in just even the way he's driving? Final sector, though, is from just before the end of the back straight all the way to the finish line. There's a lot of corners in there.
It's all the slow corners,
yeah,
and that's the thing, and it sounds like they've got a good balance and consistency in those slow corners.
Well, Pedro Lamy, just grabbing you before you walk off, that was a great run from both of you.
Yeah, it was nice. The car, it's working really well here. Seems that the tires, everything fits quite well with this hot weather, and we managed to do a very good lap in qualify. Hopefully we have a good race, we will see.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pedro Lamy there did a very good lap on his first lap and set it up for Paul Dalla to come in and take that pole position for them over the Ferrari. And there you can see it, the grid lineup.
Yeah, confirmation, GTE pole position going to the 71 AF Corsa Ferrari from Ford and Aston Martin, and that is mirrored 4th, 5th and 6th, Ferrari, Ford and Aston Martin. Porsche worryingly short of qualifying pace. Whether that means they're worryingly short of race pace, only Saturday will tell us. 98 Aston Martin on pole position, ahead of a pair of Ferraris and the pair of Porsches in the AM class. And next up, with no hurry-up offence, because there is no rain, or at least there's not forecast to be any rain, we will start our LMP qualifying at 3:35 local time, so in 5 minutes. 4 minutes and 58 seconds. 57.
Well, there's a countdown going on for the guys with the tyres right now, exactly like that, to make sure that the car, when it gets pulled out into the pit lane, which can only happen after the GT qualifying has finished, and then the cars are pulled out into the pit lane, and the tyres will be to the second delivered to the car. And then the driver, depending if they need the space actually to get to the end of the pit lane and try to look for track position, whether they, as we can see, the Rebellion stick them on now, or alternatively hold it and then just run straight out. So that's part of the strategy. I always like to get to the end of the pit lane and get on with it, because by this time I had so much adrenaline surging through my veins, I needed to release it somehow, and the best way was mash the throttle pedal out of the pit lane.
Yeah, you're about to burst otherwise, aren't you? Well, after talking about the altitude in Mexico 2 weeks ago, robbing the cars of a third of their horsepower, pretty much 30% down on power because of the thinner air, 25% less aerodynamics. Everybody's saying here, first time you go out on track, suddenly you've got the full noise under your right foot, and the whole thing's, whoa, goes into warp drive. Plus, they've got all the grip as well.
Yeah, they're very true. However, saying that, with the LMP1 cars, they've got pretty much a 50-50 split between electrical energy, which doesn't care if it's at altitude or not. Yep. So they've still got a heck of a lot of benefits from that, whereas a normally aspirated LMP2 car, as we see here, then they will definitely suffer from engine performance, as well as the fact that you don't have the denseness of the air for the aerodynamics to work.
Yeah, the slight fly in the ointment for the hybrid systems was 30% thinner air, means 30% less efficient cooling, and we're, you know, that's the marginal element really of everything for the hybrid systems, is every time you fire an electron backwards and forwards, it releases energy, and some of that is as heat. That's the technical term, by the way. If you ask a university professor, he won't explain it more lucidly than that.
Well, I obviously go to your better judgment. I've never gone to a university in my life.
Me neither.
But as
apart from drinking, obviously.
Jackie Chan car sitting there and leading it out, and then the two Porsches lined up, the Rebellion and the Alpine. And then the sister Rebellion, obviously, sitting and waiting. The heat shield over the windscreen is just basically try and keep the cockpit that little bit cooler, because it's got a natural energy and heat in there anyway when they've warmed up the engines and things, and it gets like a heat soak and a saturation.
It's like when you come back to your own car that's been sitting in this temperature, it'll be hot inside if it's sealed. Even if it's not in the sun, even if it's in the shade, the ambient temperature will go up inside the car above what's outside.
Yeah, there's a limitation of 7 degrees above outside air ambient. And Louise, what's it like down in the pit lane? Do you think it would be good in a cockpit?
What was the word we said? Toasty?
Toasty.
Yes, it's definitely toasty, and maybe a little bit more than that. But even this morning in free practice, I thought it was fairly cool, but I spoke to Francois Perrodo from the 28, and he said that it was sweltering in that cockpit.
The worst part, though, is when you come into the pits, because you don't have that airflow, and you also don't have the focus and concentration, and suddenly you just sort of boil from the inside out, and you've got to be very careful. The lucky thing is it's not humid. It is hot, but it's not humid. If it was humid, I can tell you, it is a nightmare.
It's been pretty humid here a few of the races as well, hasn't it? Even last year it got pretty wet, but what was it, 2014 was the really, really wet one when everybody sailed off down the main straight?
Well, when we came here in 13 for the first day of practice, then it was so humid that you would do probably about 10 laps and you had to get out the car. It was just intense inside of it. So Bruno Senna there, preparing in the Rebellion.
1 minute to open pit lane. 1 minute. We are under 1 minute to start LMP qualifying session.
So now imagine
Again,
you're sitting...
your drivers to respect the track limits, please.
Sitting in your road car, in the traffic, with the doors and the windows on, up. The engine's not running, but there's no aircon. Interestingly, one of the Porsche drivers just opening the door there to try and get even a tiny bit of cooling air flow in.
To get actually the hot air out.
Yeah.
It's to evacuate a little bit of hot air that's sort of sitting in there, because it's still dirty air as well. And you need also some clear air to breathe. And that's part of the design now, is not necessarily just for the temperature, but also clean air for the drivers to breathe. So there's a lot of thought process that goes into it from the aero, because any air that comes in has got to go out.
Yeah.
And 10, otherwise
9,
it builds up a pressure.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. qualifying for LMPs has started. Pit exit is now free.
Out in 38 goes Hopin, Tung in 37. Oh, it's not, it's Ollie Jarvis. All the names are now going to come up correctly. Ollie Jarvis and Alex Brundle lead the charge out. We saw Bruno Senna, we saw Neil Jarni, Timo Bernhardt in his Porsche, Mike Conway in the number 7 Toyota, and Sebastian Buemi in the number 8 car.
Just look at this, downhill through turn 2, we're on the rebellion here. Flat out, now through the S's. I'm not going to say a word, just listen. Down a gear, then through 6, a long right-hander. Cut the curb, get lined up for 7. Not too far across to the right, and then for 8. And then cut the curb so you're clean out of 9, because at 9 on the exit here, as then the Jackie Chan car drops back in the 9, you've got to be careful of the track limits on the right-hand side before the blast down towards the hairpin.
And all this while, you're trying to find yourself a little gap in traffic, perhaps, but also bringing in the tyre to the right temperature, bringing in the brakes so that everything is absolutely right on the edge.
Also the pressures of the tyre as well, because the circuit's quite bumpy. It's much bumpier than it was last year, and the tyre pressure is important for that, because if it's too low then it starts to bounce, and it'll bounce through 3, 4 and 5, and then it can send you out of line. So the tyre pressure is probably more critical in a way than the temperature, because naturally the temperature with the hot track temperatures, but also the fact it just came out of an oven, tends to keep it up.
We're on board with Bruno Senna. Teammate Matthias Besch is at the back of the queue, having only just left the pit lane, and that's not by accident, that is by design. Neither of the Toyotas have left the pit lane, so they're still in the cool of the garage, or in the shade of the garage. Nothing's cool around here, to be honest, other than inside the air-conditioned commentary booth, which may boast the biggest commentary screens we've ever seen in our lives.
Yeah. And it's fantastic to see. There's the view. In fact, if you go into the WEC app, you can see a little thing of Louise and I up there, which is a stunning, stunning view. The only problem is I'm frightened from heights. However, one went wide there. Neil Yanni went too wide at turn 1, missed the apex by an absolute country mile as he drops down through towards 3, 4 and 5.
And it cost him 0.8 of a second as well over Timo Bernhardt in the number 2 Porsche. Big mistake. It's interesting, we talked about what an old-fashioned feel this circuit has. It's things like the blind brows and the crests and the awkward cambers on some of these corners. It's not designed to make life easy for the car or for the driver. In fact, just the opposite. You know, on some of the best tracks, you think somebody sat down and thought, how can I make this as difficult as possible to drive around? And that's how this feels.
But fun, that's the thing.
Yeah,
it's difficult, but enjoyable.
Yeah.
As now coming down to towards turn 12, and then a very technical last sector where you've got to be careful, squeezing on the throttle gently as you see the Porsche on your left-hand part of the screen, and also the Toyotas preparing just to go out when the Porsches finish their lap. As now he comes out and towards a long, long triple right-hander, and we've got Bernard there that's coming through it now. However, Yanni has pulled back in that second sector, everything he lost at turn 1.
Yeah, and he was 2 kilometres an hour quicker at the end of the back straight as well. He has pulled back, the fastest in sector 2. Ooh! Now that looked like he had all 4 wheels off out of the final corner, and he definitely did. So if those laps remain, we will wait and see. It's not one of the corners, corner 20, that they are specifically watching. 2 Porsches, a 44.65 and a 44.68 for Neil Jarni and Timo Bernhardt. Ollie Jarvis crosses the line, goes fastest. Bruno Senna beats him by, almost a second, actually. Alex Brundle goes second in 37. Sandy Negrão completes the lap in the Alpine in 4th place. Toyota on their outlaps. On board now with, he's still 31. Bruno Senna's view of these sweeping S's.
As you see, it tightens up all the way through, as we've now switched to Mathieu Vaxavier, I think, is in that car, and coming through He's coming now through towards the end, and you see a little bit of power oversteer. That's the thing, the car's laterally loaded up, and the rear has already done quite a bit of work, and that's going to be the key for these LMP2 cars, is keeping that rear tyre under control, especially for the next driver going in.
Well, it's not so bad in qualifying, where you only have to sort of survive a couple of laps, but in the race, yeah, the thing's looking really twitchy, but I'm sure they'll nail it down a little bit more. Maybe dial in a bit more wing, maybe they've dialed out a bit for qualifying.
Yeah, but that thing's dancing around underneath him, behind him. You saw it through the long right-hander there as Xavier crosses the line, and it's not quicker than Senna or Beck. It's third fastest overall.
But he's driving it like a Formula Renault car, isn't he? He's really just picking it up by the scruff of the neck. And there's some of that bouncing you talked about over the bumps.
Yeah, it's aerodynamic bouncing, it's porpoising, where it's basically hitting, sealing the aerodynamics and then pushing it back up again. But through here, that's an extreme version of what we saw happen before. It's very bumpy through there, and those P2 cars are struggling with it. They're very stiff, vertically extremely stiff, so they jump around on the tyre quite a lot.
So Matthias Besch having a big moment where the front stuck and then unstuck itself. Ollie Jarvis in 38, and that car is currently in 6th position in LMP2. Porsches are in the pit lane as well, so is Bruno Senna in 31. 37 going for another lap. This is Alex Brundle. Louise is down with Porsche. They're changing tyres, Luke.
Number 2 Porsche's changing, and so is number 1 just now.
Yeah, Porsche do that quite a lot, where they basically switch the tyre and they go for a parity, if you like, between the drivers across the board. And it's been one of the sort of hallmarks of them, but now we're seeing the competition. Toyota back out there, coming down towards the hairpin at the far end of the circuit, with Kobayashi on board this one and Buemi on board the sister car.
What can they find here? Again, another great view of the Austin skyline, or the sky above the circuit at any rate, as they start to climb little rise on the back straight. Number 7 Toyota, 3/4 of a second away. Number 8, 1.4 seconds adrift of Neil Jani's lap. And if that translates itself into the gap in the race, they are going to be really up against it. Finished on the podium here last year with one of their 2 cars.
And Toyota tended to be a little bit better in race trim than they were in qualifying trim round here, as now you see they're cutting turn 19 left-hander and then down into the final corner. But I think in qualifying trim, I'm not sure they're going to have the ability to fight with Porsche.
Maybe right. Earl Bamber's headed out in Porsche number 2, Nick Tandy in Porsche number 1. It'll be a battle between the 2 of them for pole position. 1.5 away, the number 8 car, as Sebastian Buemi comes across the line.
And Buemi looks as if he's a bad middle sector. There's 1 second, 8/10 of a second gap between Tandy, who's jumped into the one that was run earlier on by Neil Jani, and Kobayashi, so it's 8/10. But then Buemi's lost 6/10 in that middle sector alone.
I just saw Jose Maria Lopez and Stefan Sarazan in the headset watching from the back of the Toyota garage, and I did wonder after free practice whether Sarazan would be doing the qualifying run, but he clearly isn't. This is the 24-manner car that challenged for the lead in the final hour, or in fact in the final 2 or 3 hours in Mexico 2 weeks ago, and ended up in 3rd position, their best result in the World Endurance Championship. That car in 4th place, courtesy of a lap from Jean-Eric Verne, and I imagine that Ben Handley will be the man to get in to do the 2nd run. And he played a starring role in the closing stages of the race in Mexico. Not a massive race speed driver change, because there is plenty of time to get it done. You don't want to pop off for a cup of tea and pop back later. On the other hand, you don't want to rush the drive either. Pierre Thirier out of the 26 car. Alex Lynn will get in. Alex Lynn confirmed as a DS Virgin driver in next year's Formula E campaign.
The other thing you don't want to do is get a penalty when you come in for qualifying. So even in the pit lane coming in, you don't necessarily want to be always at 60 kilometers per hour. I tended, especially on my in-lap, come in a little bit less than that, just so I had that margin for error, because there's nothing worse than all your efforts on the circuit being taken away because of little bit of a stupidity coming off, but number 1 again, Yanni went wide there and missed the apex at the first corner. However, it was on the exit that Nick Tandy looks to have run quite wide as well.
Yeah, there's no question he was way off, but if that's not one of the corners they're specifically watching, then it may just come down to an observer's report. Might find out a little later on that
Wide there as well.
Yeah, on both of those elements.
But that Tandy gained all that time that Yanni lost in the first sector just by getting the apex. Looks a fast and aggressive lap by Yanni so far. Sorry, by Tandy so far.
Yeah, very aggressive. Well, he's gained a lot of time by not staying to the track limits and running out wide and keeping the momentum up, which may not end up being a great move. 2600's up at the moment. Who's heading back out? David Heinemeier Hansen out in the 13 Rebellion. Julien Canal is already on track in 31, which is, they are the top 2 cars in LMP2 after the first tilt. Francois Perrodo out in the 28 TDS racing car. And Thomas Laurent has gone out in 38. Nico Lapierre in 36, the Senior Tech Alpine car. Tidier end of the lap from Nick Tandy. He got very wide there again. Well, if that lap remains...
no, he slowed down.
Yeah. But if that lap remains, then all of the pre-race chat about track limits and being vigorous with their application will turn to have been a bit of hot air, I'm afraid. Kobayashi still in the pits, but Sebastian Buemi is out on track in the number 8 Toyota, having another go. Personal best second sector. Not a great first or third sector, though, and he moves up. No, he doesn't. He remains where he is.
Yeah, but the gap's still too big, basically 8.5 tenths of a second, give or take a second, between the Porsche and the Toyota.
Yeah. Mike Conway out in the number 7 car. Ben Hanley, Graham Goodwin reminds me, is a gold driver not allowed to be the other driver in the 24 because his teammate has already gone out, so you have to have a silver or a bronze doing your second run. So 13, David Heinemeier Hansen has gone to the top of the pile in LMP2, and is that because, yes, Julien Canal, who's in the 31 car, oh no, car 1 has had his lap deleted, so Julien Canal in the 31 car that was at the top of the timing screen, looks like they've had a lap deleted as well, because it was 31 and 13. And in fact, 13 has, okay, this is on the aggregate. That's why they've dropped down, because the other guys are still up there on the basis of a single lap rather than the other laps. Let's hear from our race director.
Car 1, lap 5, deleted, track limits at T19. Car 1, lap 5, deleted, track limits at T19.
We did say he was on the limit. It looks like he was over the limit. Nick Tandy there, coming through 19-second last corner. And you mentioned it. It looked like he was maybe taking a little liberty. Oh, crikey, that's bumpy coming across. That's coming out of the hairpin. You saw the car dancing and kicking around.
Yeah, he ran over all those big mushrooms on the exit of the corner. Well, Bamba has headed into the pit lane. It is the number 2 Porsche that is fastest of all at the moment in LMP1. Little replay of the number 28 TDS car. Just ramped over one of those little yellow mushrooms. Turtles, they're referred to here. LMP2, 28 car, Francois Perrodo's car, currently fastest. Matt Rouse out in the 24 Manor car. David Cheng in 37, we saw him ready to go in. Nico Lapierre in 36, the Cinetec Alpine car. And in 26, Alex Lynn. Watching him in the G-Drive car. A tidy line from Alex Lynn. The reason that Lynn, with his racing, is in is because Pierre Thirier was the first driver, so they put their faster driver in second on the used tyre.
Ooh, crikey. That looks so unstable and inconsistent as you come through towards 19, through 18, and then bouncing around. There are the cars everywhere.
Right handful, isn't it? So Alex Lynn comes across the line, and the car, that was a better lap in all sectors. Chung, 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 chung. Has that changed anything? Yeah, he's gone slower. He's gone down a spot. Quite sure how that happened. Car 28 has had a lap deleted for track limits at turn 19. And that is the car of Francois Perraudot, so he's going to have another shot. However, the LMP2 fastest car at the moment is ahead of the #1 Porsche, which is down in 4th position.
Yeah, but that's in the pits, that car, and that was the Tandy who was quickest, but he had his lap taken away from track limits, and he's now sitting in the pits. Porsche used a set of tyres for both drivers. So do they want to go back out and use another set of tyres? I very, very much doubt it. 4 minutes to go. Oh, there are...
Vicious, twitchy moment from the number 38.
Is that another set of new tyres?
Now, they may have recycled a set. Louise is right down there. Louise, they were clearly changing the tyres, but whether they're a set that were previously used or not...
Yeah, I'm not sure because I'm halfway down the pit lane. I saw the tyre change, but I don't know if they were a shiny new set.
No, hard to tell. All right. Well, here's Matt Rao in the 24 Manor car. At the moment, 28 TDS ahead of 24, which has just gone... the screen is changing so fast, can't keep up. 24 has lost its lap, so Matt Rao having to go and do another lap. So, however, fastest first sector from Nico Lapierre in number 36, the Senior Tech Alpine car. Timing screen is readjusting itself so fast, it's actually hard to tell what's going on in LMP2. We might have to wait. Lapierre, though, is on an absolute stormer in this car.
Yeah, he is. However, Alex Lynn, who, as we saw just going into the pits with 3 minutes to go, I think it's unlikely he's going to go back out. And so it looks like his qualifying is done. Not an ideal starting position for them.
No. However, as you say, you wouldn't sacrifice a set of tyres to go 2 or 3 spots up on the grid. You don't get points, well, you don't get many points for qualifying on Friday. You get them for racing on Saturday.
I would do it if I was going for pole. If I thought I could get pole, I would do it because there's a point for that for the World Championship. Otherwise, then you're better to look at the bigger picture of the race. And you see the black marks there just as he came through there. Car jumping down, very, very nice entry into it. However, right on the limit of that double curb in 19, down, braking hard, stop, get the car, get the throttle straight, and out you come out of the final corner.
Proper lap from Nico Lapierre. And is that good enough to put them at the top of the pile? It says half a second away in second place. Clock running on the number 8 Toyota, the only P1 car that's out on track, except for Nick Tandy, who's gone back out. So we might have to wait and see whether Tandy gets across the line to start a lap at the moment.
1 minute 48, he should do.
Yeah, he will. Or he should do, you're right. Brendan Hartley, Timo Bernhardt conferring. 36 having a lap deleted, turn 19, Nico Lapierre's efforts all in vain, so let's hope he kept his foot in. It wasn't a better first sector. That was a woeful first sector, was 10 seconds off. No, forget it.
There's no way to do that, because we are now on board with the car number 8, second with Nakajima driving.
And look at the way that the road rises away on the driver's right on the inside and drops away on the left. It's adverse camber all the way through there.
Yeah, it is. It's a horrible corner for the left rear tyre.
Not good on the stomach as well for a passenger.
Yeah, but you're holding your breath through there, so your stomach's sort of locked in position. And then you've got the big uphill braking. You float coast and then hard on the brakes about 100 metres, go past the corner a little bit and then turn back to accelerate down the hill.
There's a couple of corners here that you really V off significantly. The end of the back straight as well. On board with Nick Tandy.
Oh, jumping around there just as he hit the bump there through the middle of turn 4. Yeah,
really hanging it out a bit, isn't he?
He's got to. At the moment, they're 4th overall. They were quickest. His lap was taken away from him, so he's got to recover the situation.
Well, you've been in a situation so many times in a team with equal cars who've got a very strong chance of winning, and it's either a mechanical issue that one car has or another one doesn't, or one tiny little error that can cost you victory, and he doesn't want that to be a lap lost in qualifying.
And the 8 is just lifted off there, so Nakajima's not going to finish this lap because the checkered flag is out. However, Tandy has to, and he's missed the apex at 12. He's run wide at 12. There's a couple of tenths just slid away from him there.
Now, how close can he get? The car's fastest lap of 44.65 is quicker than any of the others, but he's got to get close to what Earl Bamber did in the number 2 car to grab pole from the teammates. This is the last shot for Nick Tandy in the number 1 car, and he has to be clean. He can't afford to throw a lap away.
He's clean by about a metre there. He was well inside the line. This isn't going to be quick enough for pole position, I don't think, and he'll be hoping to go to 2nd.
If he'd done that on the first lap, he'd have had a better tyre under him. 1700ths away.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. If that first lap had been tidier, he might have had pole position in the number 1 car. He has got pole position in the number 1 car.
They did it.
Wow, that's a phenomenal end to the lap then.
Nice, tidy run there.
So Porsche 1-2, separated by a quarter of a second. The number 1 and the number 2 car, and then Toyota 3rd and 4th, 8 and 7. But the 8 car, 1.6 away from pole position, and the number 7 car 2.3 away from pole. There is a very happy Senior Tech Alpine team. Nico Lapierre being hugged as they claim pole position from the 13 Rebellion and the 38 Jackie Chan DC racing car. Louise Beckett is down in the pit lane, and she is with Porsche. So let's hear from her. I think she's lining up Neil Yarni to speak to.
Well, everybody in the garage was watching intently, and he did it right in the last minute.
Yeah, I got a little bit close at the end because his lap got deleted, and so he had to go out again on a used set, but the lap time was good enough. I think 45.3 he needed to beat from Earl, and I think he just managed that so that we could secure our 2nd pole of the year, so that's nice.
And thoughts for tomorrow?
Well, it looks like we have a little advantage over Toyota so far, so, you know, hot weather is good for us, so let's hope it stays hot.
Thanks.
Yeah, when he said there he managed to beat Earl Bamber, he did it by half a second. So that was the fact that what he was focusing on, and he was able to get in a 44.8 where Bamber did a 45.3, giving an average between the 2 drivers of both cars, a benefit to the car number 1, with Nick Tandy in there, of about a quarter of a second. There's Nicolas Lapierre, who managed to get it done in the 36 Alpine at the end.
Yeah, that was a cracking lap from Nico Lapierre. Yeah, there you go. Centre yourselves under the logo. Andre Negrão on the right-hand side there, he did the first lap, and they put the pro in on the used tyres. Gustavo Menezes will join them in the race. They start 5th on the grid, 1st in their class. Porsche lock out the front row, Toyota row 2. Then Senior Tech Alpine ahead of the 13 Vion Rebellion. Jackie Chan's 38 ahead of the 31 Vion car. G-Drive and Manors 24 car sharing row 5 of the grid. Behind them will start the 37 Jackie Chan DC racing car and the 28 TDS car that was fastest in free practice. And 25, why are we not seeing that in the result? No time set by the 25 Manor car. That didn't complete a flying lap. So Manor have issues with that. Let's get down to Senior Tech Alpine. And hear from Louise with Nico Lapierre and Andre Negrão.
Well, on this hot afternoon, that was a superb run from both of you.
Yeah, well, today Nico did a big job for the team. Actually, my lap is not a perfect lap. I mistake a little bit for 3 and 4 tenths. So, well, actually, I have to say thank you for Nico for the great lap he did it, and actually one more pole position for us today.
And how are you feeling about tomorrow? Because it came together for you guys. Well, they were good and bad from Mexico, so how are you feeling for tomorrow?
Well, tomorrow should be a tough race as well. Should be really hot all race. So be focused tomorrow to, you know, to keep the average every lap and don't destroy the tires in the beginning because we need for the end. And hopefully, well, looking forward to win.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Have to drive with carpet slippers tomorrow in the heat rather than the lead boots they've been using in qualifying. Tyre life will be a big issue. It's hot, damn hot, as we get to start qualifying in Austin, Texas. No hint of rain for this weekend, but that means that track conditions are going to be very hard indeed for the tyres and for the, in the terms of the engineers, expendable components in the car. Well, that's the drivers to you and me. In the GTE AM class, Ferrari giving chase, but in the end, the 98 Aston Martin, it has so often been the pace setter, had the advantage. Big smile from Paul Dall'Anna, sharing pole position in the AM class. The runs with his teammate Pedro Lamy. And the 95 Dane train looking very strong in the GTE Pro class. They were third. Second fastest was Ford with the number 67 car, and 71 Sam Bird and Davide Rigon coming out with pole position. 5 poles this season, by the way, from the 98 Aston, and a big surprise, a big delight rather for the Ferrari. Into the prototype class. How close would Toyota be to Porsche? Well, it would take a little while to find out because Toyota kept their powder dry longer than Porsche. In the LMP2 category, the 38 Jackie Chan DC racing car went third fastest. Second quickest, big run from the number 13 Violent Rebellion car. But in the end, a great second lap from Nico Lapierre snatched it away from then. Senior Tech Alpine start on pole position. Porsche had much too much for Toyota in qualifying trim. Number 7 car starts 4th, number 8 car starts 3rd for Toyota, but it is a Porsche front row lockout. It looked as though it was pole for the number 2 car after Nick Tandy had his fastest lap deleted, but on worn tyres he went out again and grabbed pole in the last seconds of qualifying. Can't beat an egret, can you? Nick Tandy on pole position, a big lap from him after exceeding track limits cost him his first flying lap. The second one was good enough, though, to snatch pole away from the sister car, and so the number 1 Porsche will start on pole position. And Alan McNish gives them 1 extra point, but it also gives them an extra little bit of a boost heading into tomorrow's race, knowing that they can dig just that little bit deeper again if they need to.
Yeah, they were quick in that car right from the word go, and so they've been very strong. And as he said there, we heard from Neil Yanni, there's a bit of a gap back towards the Toyotas. I would expect Toyota to be a little bit more competitive tomorrow in the race trim. They generally have been. However, saying that, it's going to be a tough uphill task because that is a bit of a gap between Porsche and Toyota. LMP2 though, that's going to be a tough old fight, and the GTE battle I think is going to be probably the juiciest one of all.
Well, maybe the little interesting wriggle in the Porsche story is that the number 1 car has just taken a point away from the number 2 car of Brendan Hartley. Earlbam with Timo Bernhardt, they've grabbed another point, so that all helps. You don't want to be sitting at the FIA gala at the end of the year applauding somebody else who's got 1 point more than you in the championship title race.
The only thing is that second in the championship, as you can see there, is a Toyota of Davidson, who's not here, Nakajima and Buemi, and that's kind of 41 point difference. So yeah, there needs to be quite a few more pole positions stolen to bring in that lead.
Hopintung, Ollie Jarvis and Thomas Laurent, they have the advantage in the LMP2 category, but there's still an awful lot of racing yet to be done. And as you say, that LMP2, the race here, never mind the title race, somebody said to me earlier on, who's going to be on pole in LMP2? I said, well, just pick a number out of a hat, because frankly, that's about as accurate as you can get in terms of prediction. Andy Prieur and Harry Tinknell hold their advantage over their closest rivals, the Porsche drivers, Fred Makovici and Richard Leitz, as Davide Rigon and Sam Bird get 1 point closer. Now, how's Davide Rigon got half a point more than Sam Bird? Interesting. They get 1 point closer as they claim the GTE Pro Class pole. Christian Reed, Marvin Deanston, and Matteo Cairoli have a slightly slender lead as Matthias Lauda, Paul Dallalana and Pedro Lamy claim 1 point closer to make the AM gap just a 10-point advantage.